Golden illusions. The helicopter descended toward Whispering Pines Resort, nestled in the Swiss Alps. Dominic Reeves adjusted his Patek Philippe watch, surveying the pristine landscape below with practiced appreciation. At 42, he had mastered the art of appearing utterly at ease in exclusive settings like this, a skill that had served him well in building his real estate empire. "It's even more breathtaking than your photos," Valentina Cruz murmured beside him, her delicate fingers touching the helicopter window. At 29, the lifestyle influencer possessed the perfect combination of beauty and business acumen that Dominic found irresistible. Her dark hair cascaded past her shoulders in carefully styled waves, and her caramel-colored eyes reflected genuine wonder at the view, a refreshing change from the calculated reactions he typically encountered. "Wait until you see the private chalet," Dominic replied, allowing himself a satisfied smile. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains, infinity pool heated to perfection, and a chef who trained under Alain Ducasse. The reservation had been made under the guise of scouting a potential investment property. His wife Olivia believed he was in Berlin, closing a deal on a hotel acquisition. The lie had slipped from his lips with practiced ease during their brief phone conversation 3 days ago. "3 nights of paradise," Valentina said, her voice carrying a note of longing that stirred something within him. "No cameras, no posts, just us." The helicopter touched down on the resort's private helipad, where a discreet staff member waited to escort them to their accommodation. Dominic placed his hand on the small of Valentina's back as they walked, savoring the anticipation of their secluded weekend. Their chalet exceeded even Dominic's expectations. Situated on the resort's most private edge, it offered unparalleled mountain views and complete seclusion from the other guests. Inside, modern luxury blended seamlessly with alpine charm. A stone fireplace dominated the living area, while minimalist furniture and warm neutrals created an atmosphere of understated opulence. "There's a welcome event tonight at the main lodge," Dominic mentioned as they explored the space. "A wine tasting for the resort's VIP guests. Perfect opportunity to maintain my cover story about considering this place for investment." Valentina smiled, running her fingers along the smooth marble countertop of the kitchen. "And afterward, we'll have this entire place to ourselves." Later that evening, Dominic found himself enjoying the exclusive atmosphere of the resort's main lodge. Soft jazz played as approximately 40 guests mingled, sampling rare vintages and exchanging pleasantries. Valentina looked stunning in a burgundy dress that hugged her curves while maintaining an air of sophistication. "Mr. Reeves," the sommelier approached, offering a glass of ruby-colored wine. "I thought you might appreciate this 1982 Bordeaux." Dominic accepted the glass with a nod, listening as the man explained its provenance. His attention, however, drifted toward the entrance, where resort staff seemed to be preparing for another arrival. A flurry of activity suggested someone of importance. The resort manager approached the small stage set up near the fireplace, tapping gently on a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to announce a very special guest who has just arrived to lead tomorrow's Economic Sustainability Forum. Please welcome renowned economist and philanthropist Dr. Olivia Reeves." Dominic's glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. Standing in the doorway, elegant in a cream silk pantsuit, was his wife of 15 years. Her auburn hair was swept into a sophisticated updo, highlighting her striking green eyes that now locked directly with his across the room. The color drained from Dominic's face as reality crashed around him. Beside him, Valentina whispered, "Dominic, are you all right?" But he couldn't respond. In that frozen moment, as whispers rippled through the crowd and Olivia's composed expression revealed nothing of her thoughts, Dominic Reeves realized his carefully constructed world of deception was about to collapse completely. Shattered glass. The shards of crystal scattered across the polished floor mirrored the fracturing of Dominic's composure. Conversations hushed momentarily before resuming with renewed energy, now infused with curious glances between the distinguished economist at the doorway and the visibly shaken real estate mogul. "Do you know her?" Valentina asked, her voice barely audible as she placed a steadying hand on Dominic's arm. Before he could respond, Olivia gracefully made her way across the room, acknowledging appreciative nods from attendees while maintaining a direct path toward them. Her movements were fluid, controlled, the practiced poise of someone accustomed to commanding boardrooms and international conferences. "Dominic," she said, her voice carrying just enough warmth to appear cordial to observers. "What an unexpected surprise to find you here." Her gaze shifted to Valentina, assessing her with clinical precision. "And with company." Dominic cleared his throat, desperately attempting to regain equilibrium. "Olivia, this is Valentina Cruz, a potential investor interested in our Alpine development project." The lie tumbled from his lips with none of his usual finesse. "Miss Cruz," Olivia extended her hand with impeccable manners. "How fascinating. Dominic failed to mention this meeting when we spoke yesterday about his Berlin negotiations." Valentina's expression shifted subtly as comprehension dawned. She accepted Olivia's handshake with visible discomfort. "Dr. Reeves, you're Dominic's wife. 15 years next month," Olivia confirmed, her smile never reaching her eyes, though apparently my husband's calendar management leaves something to be desired. A waiter approached to clean up the broken glass, providing Dominic a momentary reprieve. He seized the opportunity, directing Valentina toward a quieter corner while murmuring excuses about needing a private word with his wife. When they were marginally secluded behind a massive stone column, Olivia's composed facade cracked slightly. "A business meeting? In matching bathrobes, I presume?" Her voice remained low, but carried unmistakable steel. "This isn't what it looks like," Dominic began, then stopped, recognizing the absurdity of the cliché. "I meant to tell you—" "Tell me what?" "That while I was advocating for economic equality at the UN summit in Geneva, you decided to take your Instagram model to the very resort where I'm scheduled to headline an economic forum. Your discretion is truly remarkable, Dominic." Her words were measured, precise cuts. Across the room, Valentina stood awkwardly alone, nursing a champagne flute and observing their interaction with growing awareness. A resort staff member approached her, offering hors d'oeuvres and conversation, but her attention remained fixed on the couple. "She's not just an Instagram model," Dominic found himself saying, immediately regretting the defensive response. Olivia's eyebrow arched. "Fascinating that's your primary concern at this moment." She adjusted her bracelet, a diamond anniversary gift he had presented last year, with grand proclamations of devotion. "Tell me, was Berlin ever real? Or have all your business trips been elaborate facades?" The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Before Dominic could formulate a response, the resort manager approached, oblivious to the tension. "Dr. Reeves, whenever you're ready, we'd be honored if you'd say a few words to welcome our guests." Olivia's professional smile returned instantly. "Of course, Thomas. I'd be delighted." She turned back to Dominic, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I suggest you use this time to decide exactly what story you'll be telling your companion about our marriage. Because right now, Dominic, she looks like someone realizing she's been lied to rather spectacularly." As Olivia walked toward the small stage, Dominic glanced at Valentina, who was now engaged in conversation with another guest, a distinguished-looking woman who appeared to be explaining something that caused Valentina's expression to transform, from confusion to shock to quiet anger. Moments later, Olivia's voice filled the room, welcoming guests with eloquence and charm, while subtly establishing her position as the weekend's most distinguished visitor. Not once did her gaze return to Dominic, who stood frozen in place, watching as his carefully compartmentalized worlds violently collided. Later that night, in the private chalet that now felt more like a prison than a sanctuary, Valentina packed her designer clothes with methodical precision. "Married," she repeated, the word hanging in the air between them. "Not separated, not complicated. Married." "Valentina, please." "Dr. Olivia Reeves," she continued, zipping her suitcase with unnecessary force. "The woman who addressed the World Economic Forum last year, the economist who's revolutionizing sustainable development in emerging markets, that's who you're cheating on." Her laugh held no humor. "I feel like I'm in some terrible cosmic joke." Dominic ran his hand through his hair, desperation mounting. "I'll make this right." "No," Valentina said, finally meeting his eyes with startling clarity. "You won't, because men like you never do." She grabbed her phone, scrolling rapidly. "I've booked a car. I'll be staying at the Village Hotel tonight and taking the first train out tomorrow." "Don't be dramatic," Dominic protested, reaching for her arm. She pulled away sharply. "Your wife knew who I was before I ever said a word. Do you understand what that means, Dominic? Someone recognized me and told her. By morning, this will be everywhere." Her voice trembled slightly. "My reputation, my brand partnerships, everything I've built could be compromised because you couldn't be bothered to mention you had a wife." As the door closed behind Valentina, Dominic poured himself a generous whiskey and stared out at the moonlit mountains. His phone vibrated with a message from Olivia. "Meeting room, main lodge, 7 a.m. Come alone. This will be handled my way." Reflections in blue dawn broke over the alpine peaks, painting the snow-covered landscape in watercolor hues of lavender and gold. Dominic hadn't slept. Dark circles shadowed his eyes as he made his way to the main lodge, rehearsing explanations, and apologies that sounded hollow even to his own ears. The meeting room overlooked the crystalline lake that gave Whispering Pines its renowned azure reflection. Olivia was already there, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, reviewing documents spread across the polished mahogany table. She didn't look up when he entered. "Close the door," she instructed, her voice devoid of emotion. Dominic complied, then took the seat across from her. "Olivia, before you say anything, I've taken the liberty of drafting a statement," she interrupted, sliding a document toward him. "It addresses the unfortunate rumors that may circulate following our coincidental appearance at the same resort. It explains that you were indeed here on business, evaluating the property for potential investment, while I was fulfilling a long-standing commitment to speak at their economic forum." Dominic stared at the paper, momentarily speechless. "You're providing me with cover?" "I'm protecting myself," Olivia corrected, finally meeting his gaze. Her green eyes were clear, analytical. "The Foundation's annual fundraiser is next month. The Sustainable Development Initiative in Southeast Asia launches in 6 weeks. I refuse to let your indiscretions undermine years of work." The pragmatism was quintessentially Olivia, strategic, forward-thinking, and utterly unexpected in these circumstances. Dominic had prepared for rage, for threats of divorce, for emotional devastation. This calculated response left him unbalanced. "There will be conditions," she continued, retrieving another document. "First, your business trip ends today. You'll return to New York on the Foundation's private jet, separately from me, as I'll be completing my scheduled appearances here. Second, upon your return, you'll move into the guest suite until we determine our next steps." "Our next steps," he repeated carefully. "You're not filing for divorce?" Olivia's expression remained impassive. "That remains to be determined. 15 years of marriage deserve more consideration than an impulsive decision made in the heat of humiliation." She straightened a pen that lay perfectly parallel to her notebook. "I presume this isn't your first indiscretion?" The question hung between them. Dominic considered lying, but found himself unexpectedly weary of deception. No, he admitted, quietly. It isn't. Something flickered in Olivia's eyes. Pain, perhaps, or confirmation of a long-held suspicion. She nodded once, absorbing the information with remarkable composure. I suspected as much, which brings me to my third condition. When we return to New York, we begin marriage counseling. She held up her hand as he began to protest. This isn't negotiable, Dominic. If there's anything worth salvaging here, we determine that through professional intervention, not through more lies or grand gestures. Before Dominic could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. Olivia called for the person to enter. A resort staff member appeared, looking apologetic. Excuse the interruption, Dr. Reeves. There's a situation requiring your attention regarding tomorrow's forum, and... She hesitated, glancing at Dominic. There's a reporter from Financial Times in the lobby asking about Mr. Reeves's investment interest in the property. Thank you, Francine. Tell them I'll be available in 5 minutes, Olivia replied smoothly. As the door closed, she turned back to Dominic. It appears the narrative is already forming. Sign the statement. Your flight leaves at noon. Dominic picked up the pen, then paused. Why are you handling this so rationally? Most women would be throwing things by now. For the first time, Olivia's composure wavered slightly. Perhaps because I stopped being most women years ago, when I realized my husband viewed our marriage as optional while I viewed it as a commitment. She stood, gathering her materials with practiced efficiency. Sign the papers, Dominic. We'll discuss the rest in New York. As she reached the door, she paused. Your Ms. Cruz, by the way, left early this morning. I had a conversation with her last night after you returned to your chalet. You what? Dominic stood abruptly. What did you say to her? Nothing she didn't deserve to know, Olivia replied. Primarily, that she wasn't the first, and despite whatever promises you may have made, she wouldn't be the last. With that, she exited, leaving Dominic alone with the reflection of his own image fractured across the blue lake waters visible through the panoramic windows. Whispers in the corridor. The Whispering Pines Resort thrived on discretion, but even its most professional staff couldn't completely suppress the ripples of intrigue following the unexpected drama between the Reeveses. By mid-afternoon, carefully modulated conversations in hushed tones filled the corridors, lounges, and private spa cabanas. Genevieve Blackwood, the resort's events director, found herself fielding delicate inquiries from guests and managing the sudden, intense interest in Dr. Reeves' upcoming economic forum. What had been projected as a moderately attended event was now completely booked, with resort guests eager to observe the composed economist who had handled such a public personal challenge with remarkable grace. Is it true her husband left with his tail between his legs? Asked Theodora Wellington, a socialite from Boston who had been vacationing at the resort for a fortnight. I saw him boarding the helicopter this morning looking absolutely wretched. I couldn't possibly comment on our guest's personal matters, Genevieve replied diplomatically, adjusting the flower arrangement in the main reception area. However, I can confirm that Dr. Reeves's forum tomorrow will proceed as scheduled. Theodora leaned closer, lowering her voice. And what about the influencer? Valentina something? Rumor has it she was seen leaving at dawn in quite a state. Before Genevieve could deflect again, a commanding voice interrupted their exchange. Ms. Cruz departed to fulfill prior commitments, as did my husband with his business obligations in New York. Both women turned to find Olivia standing nearby, her expression pleasant but authoritative. Theodora had the grace to flush with embarrassment. Dr. Reeves, I was just expressing my enthusiasm for your presentation tomorrow, she recovered quickly, extending her hand. Your work on economic sustainability is revolutionary. How kind, Olivia replied, accepting the handshake with professional warmth that revealed nothing of her personal circumstances. I hope you'll find tomorrow's discussion enlightening. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some preparation to complete." As Olivia walked away, Genevieve couldn't help but admire her poise. In 15 years of managing elite clientele, she had never witnessed someone navigate such a potentially devastating personal exposure with such dignity. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Dominic's private jet touched down at Teterboro Airport, outside New York. The flight had been interminable, 7 hours alone with his thoughts and the increasingly sobering realization that his actions carried consequences beyond his immediate gratification. His phone had been uncharacteristically silent during the journey. No messages from Valentina, which wasn't surprising given the circumstances of their parting. More tellingly, no communication from business associates or friends. A silence that suggested news of his humiliation hadn't yet reached New York circles. As his driver navigated Manhattan traffic toward their Tribeca penthouse, Dominic scrolled through his contacts, pausing at names of women he'd pursued over the years. The pattern was undeniable now that he forced himself to acknowledge it, a restless dissatisfaction that no success or conquest had ever truly quelled. The penthouse felt cavernous and strangely unfamiliar without Olivia's presence. Following her instructions, he moved his essentials to the guest suite, noticing for the first time how few personal touches he had contributed to their shared home. Everything that made the space warm and distinctive, the carefully curated art collection, the rare first-edition books, the photographs from humanitarian missions, all bore Olivia's imprint. His phone chimed with an incoming email from their shared publicist, Jonathan, with the subject line, "Urgent social media situation." Dominic opened it with a sense of dread. The email contained screenshots from Valentina's Instagram story, not the public denouncement he had feared, but something potentially more damaging in its subtlety. She had posted a series of philosophical quotes about deception and self-worth, followed by a black and white photograph of herself looking pensively out an airplane window with the caption, "Sometimes the universe reveals truths we weren't ready to see. Always trust women who warn you about men. They've seen what you haven't." The comments section had exploded with speculation and supportive messages, with several followers directly asking if that married real estate developer had broken her heart. Valentina hadn't confirmed or denied, but her silence was eloquent. The email concluded with Jonathan's assessment. "This has potential to escalate quickly. Shall we issue preemptive statement or wait for Olivia's return to coordinate response?" Dominic stared at the message, realizing that the controlled narrative Olivia had crafted was already unraveling. He had underestimated Valentina's influence and the speed with which contemporary scandals could develop momentum. His finger hovered over the reply button when a second email arrived, this one from Olivia, containing only a forwarded message from her foundation's board chairman expressing concern about recent rumors and requesting an immediate conference call. The carefully compartmentalized aspects of his life were collapsing into each other. With alarming speed, and for the first time in years, Dominic found himself without a strategy for damage control. The realization was both terrifying and, unexpectedly, somewhat liberating. Silken threads. 3 months later, autumn painted Central Park in fiery hues of amber and crimson. Dominic sat on a bench near the Bethesda fountain, watching tourists photograph the iconic angel statue. He checked his watch, a simple Timex that had replaced his ostentatious collection of luxury timepieces, and observed the people passing by with newfound attentiveness. The scandal had eventually broken, despite Olivia's initial efforts to contain it. Valentina's cryptic posts had evolved into a viral TikTok series about recognizing manipulation tactics from powerful men, never naming Dominic specifically, but leaving little doubt about her inspiration. Financial blogs had picked up on rumors of trouble in the Reeves marriage, particularly after Dominic's conspicuous absence from several high-profile events Olivia attended alone. The narrative had spun beyond anyone's control until Olivia made the extraordinary decision to address it directly in her commencement speech at Columbia Business School. Her words, "Integrity isn't merely a corporate buzzword, but the foundation upon which all meaningful relationships, both professional and personal, must be built," had been quoted extensively in business publications, framing the private betrayal within her larger philosophy of ethical leadership. Dominic's phone vibrated with a reminder. Therapy, 2 p.m. 12 weeks of intensive counseling, both individual and couples sessions, had stripped away layers of justification and self-deception he had accumulated over years. The process was excruciating but necessary, forcing him to confront patterns established long before he met Olivia. "Is this seat taken?" He looked up to find Olivia standing before him, elegant in a burgundy coat that complemented her auburn hair. The autumn breeze carried the faint scent of her perfume, jasmine and sandalwood, as familiar to him as his own reflection. "It's all yours," he replied, shifting to make space. She sat beside him, maintaining a measured distance that reflected their current status, neither estranged nor reconciled, but existing in a carefully negotiated limbo as they reconstructed what their relationship might become. "The foundation board approved the expansion," she said after a moment, watching a pair of rowboats navigate the lake. "We break ground on the research center in Malaysia next spring." "Congratulations," Dominic said sincerely. "You've worked toward this for years." A comfortable silence settled between them, something that would have been impossible weeks earlier when every interaction was charged with recrimination and defensiveness. The counseling had created, if nothing else, a framework for communication that didn't immediately deteriorate into blame or justification. "I had coffee with Valentina yesterday," Olivia said finally, her voice matter of fact. Dominic turned to her, startled. "You what?" She reached out through my foundation office, asked if we could meet. Olivia adjusted her scarf, her movements deliberate. "She's launching a platform for financial literacy aimed at young women, wanted my perspective." The revelation was so unexpected that Dominic found himself momentarily speechless. "That's surprising, is it?" Olivia's gaze remained on the distant rowboats. "She's rebuilding her brand around authenticity and empowerment rather than aspiration. Quite strategic, actually. I was impressed with her business acumen." "Did you talk about me?" The question escaped before he could reconsider its self-centeredness. Olivia's slight smile held no malice. "Briefly, you weren't the primary topic of conversation between two professional women, Dominic." She paused. Though she did ask if we were still together. The unspoken question hung between them. After 3 months of intensive therapy, separate bedrooms and carefully negotiated interactions, they had yet to define what their future held. The divorce papers remained unsigned in Olivia's desk drawer, neither pursued nor dismissed. "What did you tell her?" Dominic asked quietly. "The truth," Olivia replied, "that we're doing the work to determine if what we built over 15 years is salvageable or if we need to construct separate futures." A leaf drifted down, landing on the bench between them, a vibrant red maple fragment, perfectly formed. Dominic picked it up, turning it gently between his fingers. "I've been offered the sustainability director position at Harrington Global," he said, referring to one of his former competitors, "focusing on environmentally responsible development in emerging markets." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "That's quite a departure from your previous approach." "It is," he acknowledged. "Lower salary, more regulatory constraints, smaller projects, but meaningful work." He hesitated. "The position would require frequent collaboration with economic development experts." "Such as?" Olivia prompted, though her expression suggested she already understood his implication. "Such as the Reeves Foundation," he confirmed. "Professional? Interaction would be unavoidable. I wanted you to know before I accept. For the first time that afternoon, Olivia fully turned to face him. The autumn sunlight illuminated flecks of gold in her green eyes, details he had once memorized, then forgotten to notice through years of complacency. "Is that the only reason you're telling me?" she asked quietly. Dominic considered the question, aware that his response carried weight beyond the immediate conversation. Therapy had taught him to recognize the reflexive lies he told himself before they became lies he told others. "No," he admitted. "I'm telling you because any decision I make now affects whatever we might still become. And because I've learned the hard way that separate lives, even under the same roof, aren't really lives together at all." Olivia nodded, absorbing his words. She reached out, surprising him by taking the maple leaf from his fingers. Their hands touched briefly. The first intentional contact in months. "We should head to Dr. Winters's office," she said, standing and tucking the leaf into her coat pocket. "We don't want to be late." As they walked side by side through the park, not touching, but moving in unconscious synchronicity developed over years together, Dominic recognized that the outcome remained uncertain. The damage was neither forgotten nor fully repaired. But in the careful space between destruction and reconstruction, something genuine had emerged. A relationship stripped of illusion and pretense, facing reality with clear-eyed purpose. Whether that foundation would support reconciliation or a compassionate separation remained to be seen. But for the first time since that fateful night in the Swiss Alps, both possibilities seemed equally worthy of the difficult work they entailed. The silken threads that had once bound them, attraction, ambition, convenience, had unraveled completely. What might be woven in their place would be stronger, more intentional, and ultimately more authentic, regardless of the final pattern it took.